Freecs game. Have a feeling that Aatrox is probably going to see a ban this time around as we hop into Champion Select for Game 2.
Rakan, first ban on blue side, and Afreeca say, no more of this nonsense. We're going to ban the Aatrox ourselves. Blue side meta is to ban away supports. At the moment, Tahm Kench is the ultra first pick in everybody's minds, and in this 1-3-1 Ryze, Gnar, Tahm Kench meta, makes a lot of sense to contest that one. Will probably be Afreeca Freecs' third ban on the red side. Let's see what Jinair want to ban on the blue side, especially because Afreeca just played a game with no marksman, so kind of weird to consider where Afreeca want to go in their draft.
And interesting that Jinair are looking to trade between both Tahm Kench and the Shen. See where the priority is going to go. Both Key and Toosin liking both of those champions a lot so far this season, but Toosin hasn't necessarily looked as good on the Tahm Kench.
Right now, the meta is so Tahm Kench focused that it will be first picked in almost every scenario. Shen's banned away, and seems like Afreeca Freecs are screaming out, please first pick Tahm Kench, so maybe they have a pocket counter that we haven't seen so far. Soraka is the most annoying lane matchup into it.
Might be something else that they want to prioritize as well elsewhere on the map, but I can't really see it standing out at the moment. Tahm Kench, the obvious first pick.
Well, the kind of problem is that if you give up Shen as well, the only other champion that can do a Tahm Kench roleplay in the late game is Shen, because you can just 2v1 in the top lane and Shen can rejoin after using his ultimate. So Shen being banned away means they don't have a global support. They're able to answer the Tahm Kench, so I want to see some lane destruction. They're going to start the lane destruction with a Varus.
Yep, Varus certainly a good option here, as now where do they go as far as their support is concerned? Certainly a lot of options here for Toosin to jump to. The Braum available was banned in our first series.
You can Braum Taric if you want to take a melee champion that does just fine. I think Soraka is the best choice in lane, because you can get kills by just silencing him through the Grey Health. You won't be able to use it, but compositionally, you
Pike
can understand.
Was also a decent choice.
True. You can understand the value of Varus Braum as a duo. Very strong CC duo, so that's going to be picked up by the Afreeca Freecs. Jinair, all of the junglers on the board except for Taliyah. Where do they want to go? At least an old favorite for Umti, but seems unlikely to be taken this early.
Yeah, I do like aggressive choices for Umti, so having a ganking jungler in the first few levels is a good idea, but locking down the Ashe Tahm Kench lane does make the most sense. This was Gen G, you wouldn't even think twice about it. That one would be taken, and now it would be something like a Sejuani, but the Gragas another option here for Umti if he wants to go with a little bit more of a standard jungle pick.
Gragas is actually, at the moment, quietly the strongest jungler behind Taliyah in Korea, because people love it into the Trundle matchup. Trundle is seen as an unreliable ganker and can't really punish 1-3-1, which is what the meta is right now very well, because he doesn't have true engage. He has the conditional engage with the pillar. So you're going to see games like this where Trundle's going to fall through picks and bans increasingly frequently. Going to feel really good about having the Gragas on the side of Jinair, even though it hasn't been a comfort pick for Umti in the past. Just one game so far this season. And we see pick CC on both sides, but neither side committing to an identity in the first round of the draft.
Interestingly enough, Spirit hasn't been jumping on the Sejuani that much this season. Only a couple of games so far with a win and a loss. So curious to see him prioritizing that over other junglers that he's certainly prized much more highly. GP going to be banned away from Keen, does make a lot of sense. The Zoe, of course, going against Grace. We'll see where the mid lane is going to be for Kuro. Certainly a lot of options as they can ban away mid and then pick a comfortable champion there.
Afreeca could ban the Vel'Koz and pick the Ryze, but Kuro's a resident Vel'Koz player, so maybe going to just keep mid lane for last pick. LeBlanc is turning into a blind pick mid laner. Yukal had his competitive debut on the LeBlanc and popped off yesterday.
He did.
So LeBlanc priority going up, and another champion that can do decently in a 1-3-1. Yasuo banning against Kuro pretty frequently recently.
And also here, the double wall ban as well. Unbreakable plus wind wall makes the counter siege ridiculously frustrating to deal with. Azir going to be picked up though, and a lot of his counters have been taken away in the Zoe and the LeBlanc that have good matchups. Still a few options here available for Jinair if they want to take something into it.
And remember, the Azir used to be the Bronx Cheer champion for Kuro. He had a career 22% win rate on it before 2018. But he was actually frequently getting Azir bans. He killed that meme. Just like Riot killed a lot of memes last year. And that's been the big thing, is that now the Azir is a power pick for them, Grace actually going to prefer the Syndra into the matchup. We haven't seen Azir versus Syndra in summer just yet, so a return to a matchup that we saw in spring. Blind pick top lane is required. So1 has good win rate on the Darius, but Darius priority at an all-time low for summer.
Yeah, so not going to be picked up, and the Kennen is going to be opted in for here from So1. A pick comp coming together for the Jin Air Green Wings that would be disastrous in the mid-game if they can get vision control around the map. Afreeca Freecs with a lot of team fight, a lot of front to back, and we'll see what they augment it with on the top side of the map as the Camille looked as the pick into the Kennen.
Strongest possible laning matchup here is Jace, but Jace, of course, does warp the draft. It's going to be Ryze top, actually, from Kane, an old favorite from him. Ryze versus Kennen. See if the Kennen can deal with some of the trades in this lane, and if it also necessitates AD Kennen try to take down the Ryze. Ryze very comfortable. Most matchups famously does very well in the Vladimir matchup that we used to see at the start of the season. I'm most interested in the mid lane Syndra because to me, Azir can poke the Syndra pretty damn well. And yes, there is the potential for one rotation burst, but Merc Treads and also the very defensive summoner here picked up in the barrier is going to make that very tricky for Jin Air. So Grace, out of nowhere, jumps on the Syndra, a lot of pick CC, but if the Syndra falls behind, she can be isolated and find it very difficult to follow Azir into the side lane.
And I'm very interested to see what Kramer is going to do as far as his build path as well. We might see the Lethality Varus coming out. Jin Air fans here in the Soli Stadium certainly have their voices raised, because if you're a Jin Air fan, this might be the last opportunity that you get to see them this year.
Well, that is definitely an Amumu there, and we're being told he is a big Amumu fan. I guess was implied by the picture.
Yeah. That was his name in Korean on the left, but my Korean's not good enough to read I like Amumu.
Well, we're unlikely to see any more Amumu this year. MVP are done, and MVP are the only Amumu team in the world.
They are.
Looking at Kuro's win rate, remember it used to be lower, so he was able to find a lot of success and bans on this champion in spring season. He had his 1,000 kill video before spring season and talked about his low points of his champion pool.
And they had the highlights as well of the low points of the Azir.
He had highlights and lowlights in his same video. And that's kind of been the Kuro story. Kuro, really good character. We got to work with him quite a bit, Valdez and I, for the filming of the English interview before the,
for the
spring final. And really lovely guy. Great interview as well. Real character. And he's managed to turn the crown upside down on the Azir, and that's to the credit of Kuro.
Well, looking towards the bottom side here, Papa and Kramer has decided to go for the lethal tempo. So more of the auto-attack focused Varus.
Now, the reason why this might be, because I think you had some good analysis of enemy team's pretty squishy, why not Lethality Varus, is that finally, with enough data points, teams have realized, yes, Lethality Varus is good, but closing the game without attack speed or critical strike or just in general consistent damage and only burst from the marksman kind of gets you back into awesome dude territory because you're not that good at actually killing turrets. You can siege well, but you don't kill the turrets that well, and you're not that good at doing the Baron. It takes you a long time.
Yeah.
So people have kind of moved away from it, and it seems like maybe the Lethality Varus was just a flash-in-the-pan 2-week thing rather than an actual turn in the meta.
And it was Jin Air that was almost able to take down KT Rolster as well. When they were running the Lethality Varus in the final game of that series, it was actually a bit of a heartbreaker for Jin Air fans when that moment was happening. So I see exactly your point, Papa.
It kind of frustrated me, I know, very early in the season when just everyone was playing mages and we had some of the best AD carries of all time playing mages. I was, 3 weeks in, like, okay, I'm done with these awesome dudes, done with the people who don't know how to play Vladimir and Swain playing these champions, go back to the marksman. And by the end of the season, we had Bang saying, well, it turns out closing the game with a marksman is a lot easier, which, of course, you wish they could have realized earlier. But the big takeaway point there is Baron damage and sieging is a very important thing to find. It almost always comes out of the marksman role, the person who's going to group rather than a 1-3-1 champion. We're going to see plenty of marksmen and maybe even at the cost of something like that Lethality Varus.
Yeah, I think so too. Spirit and Umpty going to at least spot each other. Gragas-esque roaming around his jungle, but pretty much a full clear The red buff is going to be the last ticket. He managed to take the Rift Scuttler on the top side as well, so definitely a trade of the full jungle. Spirit going to go back before grabbing that Krog camp. Has enough to get his Chili Smite, which is good news. Teddy and Nova going a little bit more aggressive. That's because they had lane priority. Not a lot of minions there, meaning that the Afreeca Freecs now have the wave in a pretty nice position. Grace having nothing in a very nice position here, as at least he has his summoner spells, but otherwise that's 150 health and not exactly a great spot against Kuro.
Grace made a pretty big mistake in this matchup. It's not necessarily picking up the Syndra, which was obviously to a degree of risk. Notice what Kuro has done. Kuro has actually indexed into the most lane sustain possible. We don't have his runes on screen or the ability to call it up, but I guarantee you he went Biscuiteer, Time Warp Tonic, and also the Corrupting Potion start, which is what we see from Ryze to get through hard lanes. Yeah. He has Barrier, the most selfish healing, or shielding I should say, summoner in the game. Grace has actually gone for the Doran's Ring start. Unless you're going to get a level 2 cheese gank, you're just going to lose out on trades because the enemy has unlimited regen and you have very limited regen. And that's why we see the Syndra poked out of lane with only a little bit of extra AP and health to show for it.
Well, Kuro got his back stopped as well, which is bad news. No teleport available, like you were mentioning. It was the barrier instead. So that's good news for Grace. We'll be able to even this one out. But now we've got a Dark Seal and an old Magic Mantle, and Kuro is feeling even better about this lane scenario.
I think it's important that Riot nerf some combination of Biscuiteer, Time Warp Tonic, and just stop it from this regen start, because this regen start is really dominating in Korea right now. It feels like you can get through almost any mage versus mage matchup, regardless of strength, with just having so much sustain. Free from the runes.
Yeah.
Not going to be changed on 8.14. We're probably going to be on 8.15 for playoffs, and I haven't seen too much in 8.16, but it is definitely a growing trend. If you're seeing Ryze blind pick into Orianna again and again, it's a good sign that something's changed around the meta, because Orianna was an old counterpick to the Ryze.
Exactly. And now we're going to have a 3v3 here on the bottom side. It's a good boop in from Umti, because they do try and find a lot of damage. Oh god, Kramer having to use the cleanse very early, but the minion not going to chase after him. Spirit comes down enough to try and stop Jinair from getting any more work done, and Kramer wanting to stick around for these minions. Cleanse taken, remember, not the teleport, as there's this Emperor's Divide in the mid lane, and Grace is going to get chased down by Kuro.
Yeah, he's level 6 to level 5, so has a big lead when it comes to these trades. He can continue chasing upwards because there's no minions for him to ping level 6 on the top side. So nice trade from Kuro, no summoners required. He gets the heal first out of Syndra. Good sign this lane has gone to hell in a handbag very quickly. Nothing Umti can do pre-6.
Certainly good news for Afreeca Freecs fans. Remember, it doesn't matter about the scoreline, but Afreeca do not want to bring this to an ace match, because that's when the nerves really start to kick in, their playoffs hopes, only to stay alive from this, and they will be starting at the very bottom of that gauntlet as well. Afreeca Freecs, imagine that, getting the dream run through the gauntlet.
You got me smiling, because ace match is a Korean esports term. That's from StarCraft, right?
Yeah.
Old StarCraft term. Never called it the ace match in LCK history, but then again we used to have blind picks, so things were different in the past. Umti and Spirit meeting each other.
Umti getting a really nice trade there with the upgraded W. Able to brawl pretty drunkenly, as we're going to have a look at the top side of the map. So on having a decent time here against Keem, but you can see that trade working out fantastically well for our resident top lane Ryze player.
Because I haven't seen this matchup, I didn't want to fully call it, but just like the Vladimir versus Ryze matchup, it seems like Ryze is going to take this matchup pretty happily. It is the on-hit cannon coming through from So1, so we know that he needs a couple of items to truly have kill pressure in a side lane.
We know that Kane's very comfortable right now, has himself the tier and his boots as well, so Umti's going to come up and try and move that in their favor. No mana left for Kane, but the flash immediately to come out. Someone's going to hold on to his, and that is certainly a successful gank there from Umti, while spending not too much time. Spirit grabs away his big raptor, but Grace is being frustrating. Trying to deny.
Keen was greeting super hard for the one more minion wave, and had no mana, so wasn't going to be able to turn and trade. That's why it was good gank timing from Umti. No kill to be registered. And we return to the farming phase, which for now does suit Ashe and Tom Kench just fine in the bottom side.
Interesting. Oh, okay.
Almost lost the patience there.
Going to pick it up and throw it back down though, so no worries there. Grace easily locks down his blue buff in the end. Came with a Sapphire Crystal and the Merc Treads as well, knowing full well that So1 will be going towards the more on-hit build, but he has to go towards Wit's End, which means that those Merc Treads are going to get a lot of value considering the stun that Kennen has, as well as the on-hit damage being magic when the Wit's End is completed.
Wit's End, just massive value against double AP, and that's why we're going to see it early. Had to be delayed by our Kennen player in the previous game. Watching Afreeca Freecs, they're looking to collapse on this play.
Nova, of course, understanding this play completely, but this is going to be enough. Bottom lane moves up. Jin going to walk away from trying to contest this blue buff. So far, things very quiet. 100 gold is going to be the difference between these two teams. Definitely, if you're a Jin fan, you're feeling good about that. We know that Jin like to bring games late. And the closer it is to parity at that moment, the better things are for the team that wants to get on the Teddy plane. The Teddy plane's flying high. 12 creeps in the lead here for the Ashe. Very comfortable in the lane. Just wanting to move around and use that arrow to try and grab some picks that Jin will be able to do in this mid-game pretty reliably.
And you say the same thing about Afreeca Freecs, right? Both sides have a pick comp to some degree, and that usually means, given that the pieces on the chessboard, just like in the real chess game, are identical, that means that whoever gets the tempo lead, and if the team that gets the control wards down, no control wards in chess, but in this particular game, get the control wards down, if you're face-checking someone with pick CC, you have a bad time. So we're waiting to see who can get that early snowball, because no kills at 10 minutes.
You can see Grace trying to soften up Kuro. Umti lying in wait, actually committing to this one rather hard, but Kuro not going to bite off more than he can chew. And he has himself Bristle and Sejuani on his right-hand side. His right, stage right, which was very confusing for me to think about, but thankfully I did get it correct.
Kuro spotted on one of those control wards, now 2 top side, giving a bit of a lead to the Kennen in the Rise matchup. On the bot side, we can see the offending control ward. Ooh, even clicked on.
Yeah, Umti actually, though, well and truly in the right position here as Kramer holds onto the flash for a moment, but is going to have to use it. The cleanse goes down as well for basically no reason at all. And Jin, a very successful gank on the bottom side, according to these summoners.
Don't know if the zoning cleanse was quite necessary there, given that Teddy still has his ultimate. Maybe he thought he had heal.
Yeah, maybe he thought that the volley was actually an enchanted crystal arrow. That means Kramer needs to get some glasses, I think, or get his original ones checked. Is King going to take a Rift Scuttler because he's bored on the top side, able to clear out these minion waves very, very quickly. Rise versus Kennen matchup looks to be a pretty boring one, Papa. Just clear out waves one after the other. You can get some flashes if you send a jungler up there, but otherwise it just looks to be trading farm at this moment in time. But Jin have pulled ahead in every lane when it comes to the CS.
And credit to the Korean observers for showing that, knowing that that control ward was down earlier, Umti saw it placed, he was able to skirt around the vision radius and pull off a cool gank timing. No flash required for that Rek'Sai or Shaco-esque gank path.
Yep.
Umti is just sauntering around vision a lot this game. This is the slipperiest Gragas we've seen in a while.
Elusive Gragas, who would have thought? Not exactly on brand.
You know, we have a Safecracker Evelyn skin. Why can't we have a Safecracker Gragas skin?
Because he struggles to fit through a lot of the squeeze ways, you know, to get himself into those
Are you sure?
areas. Well, Flash going to be gained here in the mid lane. Spirit throws out his ultimate, but Grace heads up play, is going to avoid it.
What are you saying about the ideal body shape for a Safecracker?
I just feel like you should probably be as small as possible.
I would agree with you, and yet I think Gragas could work it out.
That's true. I mean, maybe I'm just intolerant. I'm not entirely sure, Papa, but just feel like it's not exactly optimal. But if he does have the quick fingers, you know, it doesn't matter about your size. You can get those safes cracked. I actually watched a movie about safe cracking. I'm trying to remember the size of the safe cracker in the movie. It was a terrible film, though.
Well, it's been a terribly boring early game between Jin and Afreeca, so I guess we're on brand.
Yeah.
How about an Ocean Drake to ratchet up the tension?
Oh, amazing. Talk about high priority Drakes. The Spirit's going to poke his head in and say, ooh, 1 versus 4. I think I can get the steal. Actually, Kuro is around here. We'll see whether he does come in. There's the Emperor's Divide onto a couple of members. The ultimate paired with Toussaint's is going to be a lot of CC, but Jin going to be pretty comfortable at the moment. They've waited out 3 ults, and now Toussaint's under fire. Kuro here as well. Remember, Conquering Sands, a lot of damage availability here from the Afreeca Freecs, and the AoE is good. They're just going to throw a whole lot of buttons at each other, and teleports are going to be used from both top laners, and then nothing's going to happen.
So the Ocean Drake is the only meaningful takeaway for Jin. Like you say, so much action threatened But maybe we'll have to have a back-ended action.
Oh yeah, Grace, not a whole lot of options here. He doesn't have the flash because that went down earlier, and Kramer even going to be able to soak through the unleashed power.
Okay. Don't really know why he was there. I guess he was going back to or coming from lane. I kind of lost the train of that one. The bot side, Teddy trying to punish Kramer.
Yeah, the flash going to come out. Exhaust is good from Tucson, but I don't know why Kramer was walking that direction. As at least Tucson can body block for these. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow, as our observer is pointing out, still off cooldown. Didn't use it in the last fight, despite the cacophony of action, and it's just going to land on the Kramer. He did have the cleanse available, but Teddy grabs it. Spirit wants to find one back, but they don't have enough damage now that the Varus is dead.
Well, that's why you hold on to it. You thread the needle and pick up the kill anyway. I'm sure you're tilted if you're Kramer. Bending those arrows around was Teddy, and I'm talking about the volley in that case.
Yeah.
They pick up the kill. Kramer does go down, so there is a punishment for Syndra's walkabout around bot lane.
Really interesting positioning, though, from Kramer when he walked back into the lane, and then taking that extra added harass by standing in front of his Braum is bad news. But still, Teddy going to be able to grab that advantage here on the bottom side of the map, and that is great news for any Jin Air fan to hear. Still only a 200 gold game, and with Teddy in the lead, with his first item completed, as well as Berserker's Greaves well on the way. That Runan's Hurricane that should be coming in as item number 2 for the Ashe.
And you have to imagine, if you're a Afreeca Freecs, one game win away from making it to playoffs, you're more likely to overthink this game than Jin Air, who would obviously prefer to win the match, so they are guaranteed to be free of MVP potentially eclipsing them, but with MVP's current struggles, seeming unlikely to pick up a match victory against KT Rolster. So, yeah. Afreeca Freecs definitely have a lot to lose if they lose this series. And now, with so much parity in the first 15 minutes, no guarantee it's going to be a quick 2-0 for them.
Not feeling that way at all. However, Afreeca Freecs scaling options are certainly pretty phenomenal this game around. And if Spirit can get himself tanky enough, they'll be able to play front to back pretty handedly as well, and also have decent pick potential, a lot of options. With a draft like this, consistent damage up the wazoo. Pop Smithy. Yeah, out of position. He's just going to get smashed by the Emperor's Divide. Good stopwatch here from Nova as he spits out the Fat Man, and another Enchanted Crystal Arrow comes in. Teddy trying to free hit on the backside. Triple stun from Grace, but the positioning isn't good enough for the follow-up from Jin Air. They just walk away.
That was an interesting area where Kuro scooped it into the mouth of the Tahm Kench. Not exactly what he wanted to do with the Azir ultimate.
No.
Bit skeptical about some of the players we've seen this game, to be honest.
Yeah, it's been very, very odd, but not necessarily working out in the favor of any team just yet, as it's been mostly a tale of mistakes, like you allude to.
Also not sure about the full health stopwatch from the Tahm Kench, but
yeah, some perplexing plays so far.
There's been a lot of zoning abilities this game.
Yeah,
but not a lot of zoning.
The zoning cleanse was my favorite. That's a brilliant one. I think that's the best next to zoning Hemoplague. Being absolutely the pinnacle of zoning ultimates.
Those zoning Hemoplagues this game.
Yeah.
But Keen in a non-interactive top lane, even against Wit's End, which does strike you as a dominant first item choice against Ryze. Keen's having a very happy time. He already has his Seraph's Embrace well on the way. The Merc Tread's a requirement with all the CC in this game. And now we can start building situational. The 1-3-1, the Realm Warp to potentially turn them into a Baron. Remember the Baron damage of Azir and also a lethal Temple Varus means there is a very good potential Baron turn around 25 to 30 minutes for Afreeca Freecs.
Not to mention double smite, plus they've got Ryze, who also does a bajillion damage very consistently over a large period of time. I think you're absolutely right. Afreeca's Baron team, they went from having an absolutely terrible Baron comp to one of the best. Sans maybe a Cho'Gath on the top side of the map and a Kalista with the Rend. Like, that's about it. Afreeca Freecs otherwise so much damage. They can take probably one of the fastest Barons ever, but that's a story for about 2 minutes from now. As Rift Herald may not even be looked at here this game, as Umti coming in for a potential gank, but picks the gap as the E's not going to register the stun. Grace.
Kuro stands back, he's firing. Do notice that Kuro has an assist and a 2 CS lead. When the Syndra was picked into Azir, so things haven't gone ideally. But the Syndra pick had about a 10 CS lead early in the laning phase, but Kuro's all about outscale on this Azir.
Well, you can see Jin Air, they are roaming the river. Kramer going to move up.
Got first rotation of Vision around the river and also the Abyssal Voyage. So there's a lot of threat onto Kuro being provided by the bot side.
I'm actually potentially moving up here as Umti. Gonna move out of the way. Good double stun again from the Scat of the Week as the arrow gonna go wide. Tucson throws down the ult, keeps himself alive, and then stand behind me is going to be there. Spirit tanks a full ultimate, but why are you ulting the Sejuani? She's happy to tank that one up. Meanwhile, we're gonna have first turret blood go down on the top side of the map as Keen has too much pressure. And these team fights are super strange.
Well, we just had a Gragas ultimate first, and then an Ashe arrow scoring a goal through the middle.
Oh, so it's the classic story, the Janna Gragas type story.
Janna Orianna also.
Oh yeah, beautiful stuff.
So yeah, things not coming together in game number 2 for either team. Definitely can't just leverage it all onto Jin Air. But you can mention that in their dis-synergy on the engage, Ryze also split pushed the Cannon's turret. That's right, Ryze did take down Cannon's turret, and it's 80 Cannon, and that's really bad.
As far as this matchup is concerned, yeah, the things that we're learning here is that Ryze dominates the on-hit Cannon matchup.
I don't know how he was able to auto-attack the turret that long. I guess Cannon grouped and Ryze didn't at some point, but we were too engrossed in all the skills missing. Speaking of skills missing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's an Arctic Assault to get out of the way of the body slam, so I don't mind. I wouldn't call it a miss necessarily. If Spirit stood still, it would have hit.
Would you say it was a zoning body slam?
I think so. It's a baiting body slam. It's Kuro.
Wait till we see a zoning auto attack.
Ooh, I was waiting for the flash there from So On, but decides he doesn't want to dive.
Cooldown's almost back up for Teddy and Umti. About the same cooldown on the Ashe arrow and the cask at this present point.
Well, Keen is really, really, really strong. He's got 2 items. Seraph's Embrace has now been completed as well, and Kuro makes his way back in. Decides he doesn't feel like he needs to go back with only half health and half mana. Keen is very imposing on this Ryze. Umti might have been caught out. That is not a zoning body slam that time around as the Dragon. Going to be getting a lot of CC. Tucson, great positioning there as well to make sure Spirit doesn't take too much damage. The Dragon going to be leashed. The Afreeca Freecs actually thinking about taking this one if they can.
It's Nova also over the wall with the Devour, stopping Umti going down. Umti wants to do this. He cannot walk past Keen.
Nope, Keen's just going to zone. Teddy standing in the front line, but he's going to get ulted. Good positioning by Nova once again with the Devour to make sure that nothing can happen, but it's the trade as the Infernal Drake goes over to the Afreeca Freecs. Great news for them, evening out the Dragons.
And Keen has been a top lane Ryze aficionado for a very long time. And he always has scenarios like this where somehow he's the strongest person on the Rift again. With the Merlinomicon, as you mentioned, Atlas, no one can afford to trifle with him. Blade the Ruin King still not done for the Cannon. Did lose his turret, down 15 CS. I don't really think that a 80 on-hit Cannon from behind, who already had his turret solo taken by a Ryze, is in a really good spot to take over this game, Atlas. So it seems like struggle street for Jin Air around the 1. The 4 can be powerful situationally, but Azir got a free lane and the Ryze is ahead, and that does mean compositionally, when we talked about how it was a bit of a chess game with identical pieces on each side, seems like the piece is just a bit nicer on the side of Afreeca Freecs.
They are, and they're far more versatile as well, because you put Keen into a team fight, he's still Ryze. He still does about a bajillion AoE damage and can help grab these picks for the Afreeca Freecs. Kramer, he's got a couple of items here as well as his Hurricane is completed. Now Umti's going to get slowed. Going to find enough auto attacks to get the stun down. But I really like Tucson on this Braum so far this game. Winter's Bite going to miss there as I cast a curse the heck out of him. Sorry about that, buddy.
Of all the abilities to miss, we'll take the Winter's Bite. Do notice it's double cleanse on Tucson, and of course we saw the zoning cleanse with Kramer. No cleanse on Teddy for now.
Oh, Umti wants to find a body slam here as he does get the flash, but I don't know whether that's exactly what he wants, as he's just going to die. The miscommunications on both sides this game has been pretty woeful, but Jin Air really taking the cake here in this mid-game.
Okay, that happened. I believe the Azir was not in vision, the rest of the team was, but still, very bold in the engage was Umti.
And also completely, the rest of his team was like, I don't know whether I'm following you on that one. That was a little bit of a Leroy Jenkins, to use an old meme.
Well, at least he got chicken.
That's true, that is true. Many whelps handle it.
BBQ's here today.
No
there is free chicken around.
Hey, that's true. In our next match. Nice work. Everything is working out here as far as the stories. But the stories aren't great for our Jin Air. I don't know whether the Glad plane going to be flying here today, which is sad. Possibly the last time that we'll see them this season. Hopefully we still get to have a chat with them even though they're not going to be able to find a win. That being said, still early days, but they continue up this level of play. It's Afreeca Freecs slowly winning. And a lot of it has to do with that Rise, which is about 2,000 gold ahead of anyone else on his team, and even more numbers ahead of anybody else on the other team, apart from Teddy being able to always find farm on the map.
But it's been such a bizarre game where clearly more than just some members of Jin are a bit off their game in this one.
Yeah.
But Afreeca Freecs have made mistakes as well. So it kind of feels like Keen just got into the wrong matchmaking queue here. He's just like, I'm up 50 CS in Rise versus Cannon and split pushing things. I don't know what else is happening, but
maybe
I'm just doing my
this
thing.
is Keen's stream where he's like, unranked to challenger, and let's see how fast we can do it. We caught him in about plat or something like that.
The weird thing is, he had a very bad couple of series in the last week, but apart from that, this kind of has been Keen every game, just being a monster. In spite of his team or whatever the enemy team is doing, he's been popping off. But Keen is just a raid boss in this game. Look at how big he is.
He's got a void. He went pure void stuff. I think he went back the first. So he completed his Seraph's Embrace.
I know,
a few
that was
components
ages
came in,
ago.
but then he got a full Morellonomicon, then a full void stuff afterwards. He's only been finding the completed items in the shop so far. Been able to spend as much time on the Rift as he wants to, and so far ahead of the clock when it comes to the minions, as he's bottom side, has teleport available. Afreeca Freecs full control of this Baron area as another body slam comes in from Umpty, but Spirit answers back very easily with the Winter's Wrath, and Umpty not going to be able to get any casks to come in either. Remember, Tucson is there as well to deny any of these casks.
Who wins? Let's assume Rise is in the brush, so there's a face-checking advantage for the Rise.
Yep.
The enemy team is Gragas, Tahm Kench, and Syndra. Who wins?
If they all walk towards him and everyone gets fluxed by his first combo, I think they all just die.
I think the Rise maybe wins against those three.
Yeah.
So he's a bit out of order.
Especially if he can free hit. And he's got Merc Tread, so he's not going to be stunned for very long.
No.
Oh god, if Teddy lands an arrow from at least a decent distance.
All right, Umpty, you're only as good as your last cast. This is the time.
Well, I mean, he needs a new cask then, if we're going to judge him on that particular criteria. A lot of vision available for Jin Air, though, defensively, as the Afreeca Freecs think that they have a lot, but they don't.
But this is definitely Jin Air with a huge informationally. They know there's at least two people in that brush. Spirit's going in.
Yeah, they're going to try and find the Devour, but the ultimate's going to be layered. It's nicely done, but the flash comes out from Nova. That's going to deny, and if we're going to judge him on his last cask, it's still crap, Papa Smithy.
Sometimes you have to be very clear on your wording. That was an oopsie.
That's another
This
whoopsie.
game's a bit of an
But
oopsie.
remember, it was the unseen whoopsies that were the deadliest. That wasn't a very deadly one.
That was quite an obvious oopsie.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Well, that happened.
It's an oopsie, I think. It's definitely an oopsie type game.
A lot of people at 3 a.m. are feeling really good about tuning into Korean League of Legends as Jin Air going to push forward. There's no meaningful gold lead here. We know that the Rise is most of the gold lead, and they're trying to gank him. Who is the 3?
Yeah, well, he's going to get stunned, so Realm Warp isn't going to work. He hasn't actually pressed too many buttons. He's going to get taken down by Teddy as he turns up. I have a feeling if he had have just stood and fought, it would have been a better story. However, there was enough layering of CC, and he does fall down in the end.
Doesn't look for the outplay, goes down. Keen is dead, but Afreeca Freecs with 4 in the mid lane want to take this turret.
Yeah, 4v2. It's going to be the Mountain Drake being taken by the rest of Jin Air. Teleport going to come in. It's going to be Nova coming back with his unsteeled spellbook, and Teddy soloing down the Mountain Drake. He's got a hell of a lot of health, but no one on Afreeca has any information about this one, and Afreeca dropping the ball a little bit when it comes to the vision.
And your boy Teddy has also had a non-interactive game where he has 310 CS.
Teddy versus Keen, is that what we're playing here, Papa?
You know, that would have been the featured matchup when it comes to stars. That's probably the featured matchup for this game also, so we'll take it. Hopefully we see a fight between the two. I think the Rise will win, but if the Rise gets enough peel, if the Ashe gets enough peel, who knows? Bit of a standoff in mid lane. Keen still 2 seconds on the death timer. Went domination second.
And he's level 17 already. So, I mean, no wonder the death time is so big.
He's really strong.
Good lord.
Who has more gold? The answer is Rise by 400.
The fact that it's Keen versus Teddy, but Keen has a 3-level advantage as well is a little bit frightening. As Kramer, he can't move up to this turret because he's level 13. And so much of the money has been hoovered up by Keen. The other solo laner on his team being tricky. 2 levels behind is, all right, this was an old tactic that you used to be able to do as the Afreeca Freecs going to move on over. Remember, Spirit's not exactly the tankiest right now, but this might be something that they can do. He's going to get spotted in the end as Spirit almost just killed. There was another row of spikes. That's actually unavoidable as the arrow's going to fly,
Ooh.
but Tucson going to flash, decides not to soak it with the Unbreakable. Instead, going to play it as safe as possible.
And assume that it was on cooldown, but you're right, there is of course also a valid reason to just flash away. The exhaust and the barrier available. I don't count that as a whoopsie because there's chain CC on the side of Jin Air to punish someone who's CC'd for 2 seconds.
Feels like the player's been tidied up a little bit here by Jin Air as the pressure advantage certainly feels like it's in their hands. Even though Afreeca do have a slight lead when it comes to gold, this outer turret just getting free hit by Teddy. Keen trying to find some spells off to the side, but you can see the flanks of this fight are being fought by both teams. Umti actually getting the health lead from Kuro.
Keen's around the flank, level 17, Realm Warp available, but probably too slow. And Engage try to use it. Keen walks up. Seems like a back timing for Kramer, who's low on mana. Just want to stop this turret going down. We still have mid lane turrets up in 30 minutes.
Yeah, and so Kramer not going to be able to help out as far as clearing out minions, but wave clear is not wanting on the side of the Afreeca Freecs with Keen and Kuro available. So Jin Air can have to find a different point of attack with both of their side lanes pushing in. Infinity Edge done actually for Kramer. So he's got the perfect 3 items, whereas Teddy felt like he needed to go towards more of Malmortius given the amount of magic damage available for the Afreeca Freecs.
You can't die instantly to a Rise face check or just Azir by accident in a team fight, so it has to go more in order to actually get out consistent damage. Would love an Infinity Edge, of course, but
yeah,
not available. Enemy team doesn't have a lot of armor yet, so there's not a big quandary there. And I feel good about damage output at 3 items, even though more does represent a bit of damage. Downturn towards being cleared. Still waiting to see Rise hit a side lane. We're actually seeing Keen group at the moment.
See whether Umti can get his eye back in, because I feel like it's the only thing separating Afreeca Freecs and Jin Air at the moment is the fact that Umti really hasn't found the Gragas performance that he wants so far, as Keen, once again on the flank. Got actually spotted, given good control wards around this mid lane, on the sides at least, for the Afreeca Freecs. Vision elsewhere, not exactly fantastic though, for our red team.
Already outlined how Afreeca Freecs have great Baron speed. Jin Air's is decent, of course, as well.
Their turn also fantastic with the amount of CC that they can throw out.
Looking at the Gathering Storm here, it's a Jin Air game, but this season has been bereft of Gathering Storm compared to previous ones. 2 on the side of Afreeca Freecs.
Yep, Keen with the biggest number there, but because it's AP, but also because he's gigantic. Currently 50 CS ahead of the clock as Jin Air are going to turn up. Control ward going to be cleared here in the Baron pit as the Baron also gets a little bit mad. Wags its tail there at Teddy, who gets a little bit bothered and hops up into the sky.
Team Tucson roam bot side, put down Vision. Spot
See
some
whether
of the
he can
pathing
steal
here.
the Bramble back.
The other thing that I think you're doing this is, yeah, he's going to look for the steal now. But the reason why you put down a ward like that is we've had this weird game where Vision has dropped and been traded around Baron. If you see Umti bot side, Kuro and Kramer can delete the Baron in half a second. So
yeah.
This is very much to spot the enemy jungler if he's ever in his red side jungle, and then allow Afreeca an answering Baron buff. As, yep, that's how this matchup was going to go.
Eventually, at least, as the Zhonya's Hourglass is going to come in next here for Keen, he'll have even more survivability. Not going to be able to utilize that alongside his Realm Warp, of course, but otherwise going to be a great pickup here for the Afreeca Freecs top laner.
Oh.
Feels bad. At least he gets the zombie ward out of it. That's great news. Now going to have a little bit more adaptive damage.
Front-to-back teamfight does favor Afreeca Freecs exclusively at the moment because they have double Void Staff, even though there's decent magic resist already put together by Jin Air. There's no way to be able to stand up in a true front-to-back teamfight. Also, Jin Air have much more of a pick comp than Afreeca Freecs does, given that Syndra cannot ape the Azir in a 5v5 in terms of consistent damage, but right now we've hit those item timings where it's most clear. A lot of magic pen onto the Azir and the Rise, so Jin Air have to choose their spots, and like you say, I think it's really Umti hits the cask of life, or Umti condemns his team to death, depending on that next cask.
I think so too, and if the last 2 have told any stories, it's been pretty woeful here on the side of Jin Air. See whether he can turn that one around like we were illustrating earlier. Afreeca Freecs don't have their Rise. He can be there at a moment's notice as Sand Soldiers are hanging around. Teddy playing some relative frontline and does proc the Q. Unbreakable just going to eat a lot of that damage, but Spirit, that's important. Doesn't have a Warmogs yet, so damage is going to stick at least for a little while.
How do we get back to this Azir versus Xerath territory of 33-minute outer turrets? Didn't think Syndra would be involved in that discussion. Poking on both sides are Afreeca Freecs and Jin Air.
Nova sensing a teamfight actually pops the Ghost just to give himself
Keen
back
is
the
walking
cleanse.
down as the cannon is also trying to follow. So the Keen will be here much earlier.
Yep, ultimate is going to land. Good body slam gets Umti out of the way as they're looking to split up this fight. Keen moving in, but full vision available from Jin Air, and they move together around that top side. So the Rise relatively zoned. Kramer going to start off this Dragon, and Afreeca going to try and augment their first Infernal with another. Umti going to have a lot of burst damage potential. Doesn't steal it. Kuro, in fact, he's able to grab that one as the Devour from Nova gets Umti out of the way. Jin Air lose themselves an Infernal Drake. It's still two Dragons apiece, but the most coveted ones going over to Afreeca, and exactly the ones they want for their teamfight comp.
No smite used there by Jin Air. Spirit used his early, and Azir cleaned it up. Pushing up to this mid lane turret, there's so much damage to respect.
Yeah, so much pick potential to respect on the other side as well. Afreeca Freecs just moving their Rise minion hoover into each side lane to make sure that they have priority there. He's got himself his Zhonya's. We're going to illustrate his CS.
Man.
Yes, it is still pretty bogus, as he's 70 ahead of the clock.
Yeah,
At
412
minutes.
at 34 for a top laner is really obscene. It has been at the cost of his AD carry, who hasn't been able to pick up as much farm, but in Korea we see much less AD carry in side lane than you do in the LCS regions and the LPL as well.
We don't have
Uzi,
double lift here.
chief offender. Hey, Uzi's right up there.
Hey,
too.
that's true,
Those
by the
two are certainly up there and picking up sideway farm in the past.
I was watching old double lift interviews, so a little bit less double lift now, definitely double lift in the past.
It's a funny thing, if you look at like super plays of the past also, you notice how much the mechanical ceiling of League of Legends is raised.
Yeah.
And then, connected to your point, the 10 CS a minute seems outdated. It feels like 12 CS a minute is now they're like pretty good. And then from there, anything bigger than that is even more impressive. So times have changed. What is immaculate, what is amazing has certainly evolved over the years. Players have got better and better at League of Legends.
Yep. The fundamentals especially. Sitting in custom games, farming out minions, and understanding where waves are going to be at any given time as well. I feel like is information that went from relatively mysterious in Season 1 to something that everyone has down to a fine art now.
If Syndra can get a death cap, you amusingly as Syndra go from really good early game to falling away a bit in the mid game when you can't one rotation someone to at some point when you have 6-item Syndra, somebody's going to die, especially with the Q now giving more damage when it evolves rather than having more spheres on the ground. So deleting anyone, creating a 5v4 is really big for Jin Air, and they have great pick CC to make it happen and then try to get a Baron against the flow of the game.
Well, now the wave's going to be equalized on the bottom side. Keen once again groups up with his team. They know that there's been 2 scrying orbs used very, very recently. So information is going wanting here on the side of Jin Air. However, the backs are going to come in from Afreeca. I felt like they could have really capitalized on Jin Air just having to face check those brushes. Instead, they're going to go back home, grab some more items, and Jin Air will have free reign of this outer turret in the mid lane, unless Keen and Kramer can be enough to deter them. Arrow going to land point blank onto Spirit.
Oh my
taking
God.
a lot of damage. Oh, the cask to save his life, though, as the turret is finally going to be taken down. Kuro looking for more, but Teddy going to be gobbled up by Nova. Tucson still wants this fight, though. Throws the ultimate down earlier on. Grace's going to get exploded now that the Devour is not there. Nova can only save so many people. That's the pick that Afreeca were looking for. Can they now just take the Baron?
They were so desperate to make it happen, flashing forward, trying to get the picks. Jin Air are still around. We can see Umti's there. The casks haven't worked, but the smite, it could be so crucial.
Yeah, Spirit's only now going to make his way in. They're deciding not to go for the 50-50 as Nova.
Okay.
Is going to look down. Oh, there's the Emperor's Divide, just explodes. Teddy! I thought the Slicing Maelstrom being in the team was going to be bad, but no, it's not. The amount of damage that Afreeca have is gigantic. Realm Warp on top of Nova as well. They want more. Kramer flashes in, trying to find the Quadra. He'll get it. And the Afreeca Freecs will take down the outer turret and the Baron and possibly win the game. Good God, the plays from Afreeca finally.
Kuro took 37 minutes to find the button, but he found the win button on the Azir. Scoops in Teddy. One large scoop of Teddy is always going to be a victory for Afreeca Freecs. With those death timers, they might have done it.
Yep. And it looked like disaster, honestly, but this was an on-hit cannon. It's not going to be the AP cannon for the explosive damage. Okay, see you later, Grace. Out of the death chamber, back in. He missed it. He wanted to go down once more, and the sad plane is going to be airing again tonight, guys. A 0-2 for Jin Air, but Afreeca Freecs